Welcome to the Women Inspire Aspire podcast. In this episode, I talk to Sourabha Rao on wildlife literature.
Hi, Sourabha. Thank you for accepting my invite to appear in the podcast. How are you doing today?
I've been well, thank you so much. And how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. And could you please go ahead and tell us a bit about yourself, your background, where you are from, what do you do, etc.?
Sure, thank you. I was born and brought up in Mysuru, and like many students of the time when I studied, I completed my engineering. That's my academic background. After working in the IT industry for a couple of years, in Bengaluru, I discovered that my passion, my calling was really gnawing at me, which is writing. I switched careers, which was not an easy decision, but looking back, probably that's the bravest and the smartest decision I took, I think, about 10 years ago. And through writing, I found a couple of sectors that really spoke to me very viscerally, and that includes wildlife conservation. So, for the past 6 years or so, I've been working in the sector in different capacities. I used to work with a couple of non-government organizations, non-profits, for about 4 years as a storyteller, writer, writing, filmmaking, and outreach, media relations, etc. And last year, my husband, who's a well-known wildlife photographer and filmmaker, and we both started up on our own, and it's called Owletter Creations. So now I'm a writer, poet, and an entrepreneur of some sort. We are working in the conservation sector, wildlife primarily, but we are also working on heritage conservation, and women's health is another sector that we are looking at. So yeah, this is a succinct summary of my journey so far.
Wonderful. So you were a writer as well as a filmmaker. So how do you divide your time between these efforts? And can you tell us a bit more about what is really involved in these activities?
Wow. I wish I had an easy answer for this. And it's honestly, taking things one day at a time. I sometimes wish there were 48 hours in a day, but uh, the thing is, if you're passionate about something, I feel like you will make time, and nothing will work as an excuse. Most of the time, when we are working on a filmmaking project, obviously, when you're in the field, that is the only thing you need to focus on. Writing can still wait, when you're away from the crew, the people that you're working with, when you have some alone time, that's when I focus on my writing. Solitude works really, really well for me, in that when I'm not needed by, say, my team or the participants of the film project, etc. But there are days when I just dedicate all my time to writing. Make no mistake, when I say solitude works, it doesn't mean has to be in a very quiet corner all the time. I can sit in KR market and still get my writing done. But what I mean by solitude is not being pulled in all the other directions that happens on a filmmaking project, for example, right? Having said that, both have all my heart equally, and with filmmaking, it's more like participating in the outside world, because you get to meet so many people and work in different landscapes. Your physical presence in the outside world, whereas writing is a very internal, very private, secluded activity. So yeah, I think the projects themselves sort of demand the kind of time they need, and all I do is just go with my gut and yeah, make sure that I meet my deadlines, and also without ever compromising on quality. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. So let's talk a bit about your wildlife filmmaking. What is involved and what are the themes that you cover in wildlife filmmaking?
That's a very good question, because it's such a broad thing, right? When we say wildlife filmmaking, mine is strictly not wildlife filmmaking per se, in that I'm not going to the forest shooting animals, like filming animals, wildlife. My primary focus is on human wildlife interactions, in that specifically, I have been, for the past 5, 6 years, I've been looking at human wildlife interactions in a specific part of Karnataka, the Western Ghats of Karnataka, and to be even more specific, a district called Uttara Kannada. Some fantastic, inspiring, moving faith systems that I believe have led to conservation like activities, in that people worship wildlife as deities, and that kind of faith system, that kind of tolerance, and even love for wildlife has really led to, the kind of empathy that's really a wonder for me. So that is my primary focus. And in very small scales, I've done short films in the past, but my very first project is actually happening, to adhere to the global standards of making documentary films, and it's actually ready. So I'm happy to talk about this for the first time, I think, in public. It's ready. We've already submitted the film also to some film festivals across the world. Now I'll have to look for screenings, which I want to do in rural Karnataka, rural parts of India also. That's my aim for the next few weeks and months, and of course in the cities also. So yeah, human wildlife interactions is my main focus as of now. And also, conflict is part of the human wildlife interactions, right? Because there's also a lot of positive interactions, and that is what I want to document, especially from landscapes that no one really visits, because there are villages in Uttara Kannada where you have just 3 houses, and sometimes you get lost, and to find one house you have to, I don't know, your maps don't work, there's no phone connectivity, you have to spend 3 days to find one house. That has happened to me. So these are the kind of remote villages I want to tell stories from. So yeah, this is my primary focus as of now.
Okay, great. So tell us about the faith stuff that you talked about. When
Mhm.
you have the human animal interactions, you mentioned about the love and the faith and things like that. So,
Hmm.
what are your
Hmm.
experiences in this regard? Can you share a couple of experiences from
Hmm.
this?
Oh, and nice that you want to get into the details. So, you see, it, within Karnataka alone, in my experience in the past, if there are places where conflict is more because there is higher density of large carnivora, especially tigers and leopards, right? And having said that, it's a very well established fact already that, every conservation scientist also talks about this, that in India, especially in a country like India, because of a lot of spiritual grounding and some religious connotations, sometimes, positive ones, and the kind of inherent tolerance that stems from this kind of faith systems have always led humans to look at wildlife as, equal rightful inheritors of our planet, right? I mean, wildlife has always been part of our folklore, our mythology. The vehicles of so many gods and goddesses happen to be wildlife. So that's extraordinary. There is so much history behind this. It's endurance that has happened for centuries on end. So now you go talk to someone who has survived either a bear attack or a leopard attack or a tiger attack. Of course, there are some extreme cases. I'm again not going to romanticize this aspect. There's a real danger in that. Of course, there's retaliation. People, when they've lost lives, people, when they lose crops or something to elephants, something they've worked towards an entire year, and their livelihood depends on it. Obviously, the retaliation is understandable, and that is one of the most pressing problems of our time that needs to be addressed. However, considering that we are the most populous country in the world, with some of the highest densities of large carnivora and living in such close quarters, it's extraordinary the ratio of such cases, conflict cases versus retaliation is actually mind-boggling. That this kind of tolerance, this kind of an inherent capacity for coexistence is even possible. So I have met, in my journey, I have met people who themselves have survived attacks, who have lost their pets, who have lost their livestock repeatedly, not just once or twice, still talk about wildlife with uh, the kind of empathy that I still find hard to wrap my head around. And it's nothing short of a very moving experience for me, because these are all first-hand experiences, right? In fact, I've met a few families who even have said things like, what can we do? The animals also need to exist just like us. In fact, we are the ones who are living in the forest, and the forest is their land. So when they take our livestock or our pets, it's almost like their right, you know. So yeah, these are all sort of really the big questions that we ponder upon, not easy things. No, you can't reduce these things to just a definition or two. Even a film, right, can contain just parts of this immensity of acceptance and tolerance. So yeah, faith systems are amazing because not only have they led to conservation without many cases of retaliation, especially in Uttara Kannada. You hardly find any documented cases at all compared to, say, the Mysuru landscape. So it has also led to how do I put it? If these were to be documented at a large scale, which I hope will happen, I think it can even serve as an example for other countries as well. And maybe at a global scale, we can all go on a search for such stories, because I'm sure that any ancient civilization or indigenous people who are sharing their lands for centuries on end will have such faith systems. Maybe this is the best time to explore them. So yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So I think when you moved from IT to, say, the wildlife thing, actually, I think the
Hmm.
creativity
Hmm.
part of it, or the artistic side of things, might have
Hmm.
influenced you a lot in getting into these areas, I guess. So tell us a bit about
Huh.
the creativity part of it and how you got influenced when you started this effort.
Yeah, I think I'll have to go way long ago on my journey of being introduced to literature. So I was very, very fortunate to have a father who uh, uh, was into literature. That was his primary passion. In fact, he himself is a bilingual writer, and my I grew up with a huge library in my childhood home. Had access to both Kannada and English books, that were sort of prescribed as textbooks for a lot of master degree courses. Like, I remember reading Eliot as a high school kid. Of course, not that I grasped everything, but it really influenced me a lot at a very tender age. Books were always a part of my life ever since I was a little girl, and my birthday gifts were always books. So, and I started writing poems when I was in sixth grade. A couple of Kannada newspapers even published with a few illustrations, and that was a really good push, I think, to explore poetry. That's the first form of writing that I ever explored. And yeah, it was always a part of my being, I wrote a lot. I maintained diaries or journals, whatever you want to call, them. I wrote every day, basically, even as a little girl. And I always knew that writing was something that I could always turn to express myself and to interact with the world, basically. And although, yeah, engineering happened because, well, that was the wisest thing to do, like to become financially independent as soon as possible in life and everything. But there was a time when I realized, okay, I know what I've always been passionate about. Maybe just, take the leap of faith and try to explore that in the professional context. Passion was always there from a very young age. I just wanted it to be my profession. It wasn't easy. It was really difficult in the beginning, because when you, I'm going to be very open about this, right? When you choose to work for nonprofits as against having worked in an IT corporate environment, there are a lot of compromises, especially financially, and when you have dependencies. So it wasn't easy, but at the end of the day, anyone who is passionate about anything, this, you are an author yourself, the pull, the gravity, the sheer power of this pull, right? And there was no other way. There was simply no other way. And yeah, passion and profession had to meet at some point, and that's how it happened, the switch.
Okay, cool. So we talked a lot about your work so far. Now let's talk about your hobbies and interests apart from what you do for work. What do you do for fun?
Right. Um, fun books is fun also, right? Literature is super fun. Terrific fun actually. And also the best thing about it is it's fun in groups. Like we have a lot of these poetry groups that I've been part of. Because I'm into Kannada literature as well with equal love and passion. For about 11 years, there has been this passion project called Padayatre, through which I've found some extraordinarily talented, well read, wonderful human beings who inspire me pretty much every day. And for fun, theater is another passion as an audience. I think it's extraordinary how people can just become other people in just one go. I mean, films, at least you can always do 20 takes, 30 takes, but in theater, people have to do what they have to do in real time, and it's just one chance. So theater has always been uh, a fascinating thing for me. And music, Carnatic music, I've been learning Carnatic music. That's also an amazing way of having fun and also learning. It's very humbling. Um, Travel, of course. Travel anyway happens for work, but also, you know, because of this interest in history and architecture, I love traveling to, different parts of the world to explore different things that I'm passionate about. So cooking is fun. Yeah, I guess that's about it.
Okay, great. So what exactly are you learning in Carnatic music right now?
I finished my junior classes actually, but because of the startup again, sometimes priorities change, and I am yet to how to say commence my senior classes. However, my teacher has been very kind in teaching me, Devarnama and other things that do not strictly fall under the purview of the senior classes. So yeah, and some light music. In Kannada, there is this amazing world of music called Sugama Sangeeta. Like it's called light music. You have Bhavagites and all these things. So yeah, a little bit of a digression from the mainstream thing, but I really hope and dream that I can get back to my senior classes very soon.
Okay, so not really. Um, so learning Carnatic
Mhm.
music, actually not tying up to your senior classes as such, but
Hmm.
are you listening to
Oh,
music
yeah.
in YouTube and all
Yes.
that stuff?
Yes. 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 I mean, listening is a part of almost like daily life, in fact, there is this Yakshagana place in Gunavante, Karnataka, where we were just talking about a cultural festival that happens, and how people like T.M. Krishna and the who's who of Carnatic music had performed in the past years. And one conversation such as that last week, and I've been listening to this guy for about, yeah, a week. So it keeps changing. And recently I was also hooked to Aruna Sairam's renditions of certain ragas, and I was playing them on loop. And I'm also very fond of Ranjani Gayatri, musicians of our time. And I'm a big fan of Jayanti Kumaresh and Mr. Ganesh. Had the honor of even interviewing Jayanti Kumaresh. So I listen to these people a lot, and of course the greats of the past also. But yeah, for the past 1 month, I've been listening a lot to yeah, TMK, Aruna Sairam, and Ranjani Gayatri, and others.
That's wonderful. Great. So let's shift gears and talk about some societal issues that you care about, of course, apart from
Mm-hmm.
wildlife and all that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Are there anything that you are concerned about and you're working or doing something about?
Thank you for asking this question, because um, this passion for writing has usually, I think, not just me, right? Anyone who wants to explore different forms of writing do get pulled in different avenues. And one such experiment of sorts I did was to do some freelance journalism for a couple of years. Luckily, a Kannada newspaper chief editor gave me a space every week. I had a column in which I explored a lot of issues, social issues, especially ones revolving around women. Everything from superstition affecting women in their daily life to menstrual health is something that I'm really focused on, because small things like, switching to a menstrual cup, how it can be life changing for a lot of women. And that is also something that I'm looking at right now as part of my startup's work. But even before that, I've visited a lot of villages in Kanakpura Taluk in Bangalore, rural areas, right? Where I met these women who openly talk about menstrual health. And in fact, I've had a tough time sometimes talking to urban crowds, believe it or not. And I've had terrific fun understanding women's perspectives from the rural background. So menstrual health is something that I've invested a lot of time into, and I will continue to in going forward as well. And I sort of come from a very traditional family, and I don't say it as a completely bad thing. There have been a lot of amazing things, but because of a lot of sticking to traditions for the sake of traditions, I've seen a lot of, a couple of my aunts who lost their husbands at a very young age, the way they were treated, the way they were excluded from certain celebrations and things like that. I've written quite extensively about these things in the newspapers also. And a lot of the times, some strong opinions have led to controversies, but I've always stood by my opinion. How, like, small things like uh, kunkuma, vermilion, being denied to a widow sometimes, right? Even today, it's unbelievable. So yeah, I think one part of it comes from some very uh, disturbing first-hand experiences, right, all around me. The other part is more like a bigger picture, where, yeah, looking at something like menstrual health allows you to work with organizations that are working at national level, global level, trying to eradicate menstrual poverty, because a lot of young girls don't get to go to schools because of their menstrual cycles sometimes, and women find it very hard to manage both their careers and their personal life in so many parts of the world even today. So yeah, that's something that happens that's a discussion on a global scale. So yeah, I guess it's an interesting mix of very personal stories and something that happens at a collective level.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, and great to hear that on the International Women's Day 2025.
Oh, yeah, what a wonderful day to have this conversation. Thank you so much, Venkat.
Absolutely. So we are coming towards the end of the podcast. Do you have any
Right.
questions for me?
Yeah, I mean, I was so happy to just go through the kind of women you've spoken to in so far, and they're all doing some extraordinary work. In fact, I want to maybe connect with a few of them and learn more about their journey. So thank you for doing this. I wanted to know what inspired you to do this podcast, if I may ask.
Yeah, sure. So I like talking to people. So I wanted to start the podcast to speak to different people from variety of diverse walks of life and get to know their journey. This is not
Right.
really about the job or the profession or the career. It's about the life experiences and what they came through. Um,
Wow.
so that's basically how it started, and it's going well. We have had 60 plus episodes so far, and
Yeah. Yeah.
going well right now.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
actually, I can put you in touch with a couple of people who you might want to talk to. A couple of them from the Yakshagana field, um,
Oh, brilliant.
and also
Brilliant.
some people in Bengaluru who
You're
are
right.
actively involved in um, arts as well as the
Wow.
creative aspects of it. So uh, definitely, I can help you out on that.
Wow, that would be wonderful. It's always amazing to connect with people who are passionate about such things, you know. So thank you very much. And yeah, like I said, it's a great mix of people you've got from different backgrounds. I like how you've diversified the sectors, right, from to which these women belong. So far it's been only women, as far as I understand, which is amazing.
Yeah, so far it has been only women, and
Right.
I think that will continue unless there is a niche change or something like that, which I don't foresee happening. So um,
Great.
thank you so much for spending time with us in the podcast and sharing your thoughts, experiences, and views. I wish you all the best in your life and whatever you aspire to do in your life. And thank you once again. Please take care and bye bye.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. It was really a nice experience to talk to you. Yeah. And I wish you the best as well. Thank you so much. Bye.
You are welcome. Bye bye.
That was a great podcast with Sourabha Rao. Please subscribe to this channel and follow it for more awesome podcasts. Opinions expressed by the guests in this podcast are their own. The host or the sponsors of the podcast do not condone the opinions expressed by the guests or the actions arising out of those opinions. Any decisions or actions that the listeners might take as a result of listening to this podcast must be based on their own judgment and will be at their own risk. The podcast host or their sponsors will not be held responsible for the consequences of any actions and or decisions taken as a result of any content in this podcast.